Tommy Jaggi of Fansided here with NFL expert Marcus Mosher to break down week 5 around the NFL. We're just coming off of Sunday Night Football. We're going to talk about the Patriots upset win over the Bills. The Ravens dropped to 1-4 on the season. Are they doomed? There's a lot to talk about today, Marcus. So let's kick things off with your thoughts on Drake May and the Patriots getting past the last undefeated team, the Buffalo Bills. Are undefeated no more. They dropped to 4-1. Patriots advanced to 3-2. Now just a game back of the Bills in the division with the head-to-head tiebreaker if it ends up coming down to that. As of now, Drake May looks excellent. Maybe the next star quarterback in this league. What were your thoughts overall from Sunday Night Football?
So first of all, this has got to be like the earliest that we've had no undefeated teams. I mean, we're only in week 5. Yeah. Generally, we get like a 6-0 team, 7-0 team. To have it already done before week 5 is completed is pretty wild. But no, that was a really, really fun divisional game. I'm surprised at how well Drake May played. Not that I've had any questions about the talent, but that's a really tough spot in a whiteout game in Buffalo, Sunday Night Football. And it didn't feel too big for him. It felt big for a lot of the other Patriot players. They were making mistakes all over the field. I honestly thought Vrabel's coaching was going to cost them in this one. But no, I think if you're a Patriots fan, this is as excited as you've been about your team this decade, right? You feel like you've got the right coach. You've got a quarterback that gives you a chance in every game. We'll see about the defense. We'll see about the run game if they can get that solved. But the Patriots sure seem like a team that's going to be in the playoffs, and we'll see how far they can go from there.
Yeah, and Mike Vrabel's defense played Josh Allen about as well as you could. Allen in this game, 22 of 31, only 253 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick, was sacked once, a 50 QBR. I mean, you held him in check, and there were a couple big plays. I thought Allen was bailed out a few times, even with some penalties down the field that kept Bills' drives going that otherwise maybe they wouldn't have even gotten to 20 points in this game. I thought it was a really good effort overall. And then Drake May on the opposite side, I mean, 22 of 30, 273, 9 yards an attempt, 101 passer rating. Was he the better quarterback in this game? I know Allen always does more with less.
No, because, I mean, Josh Allen's doing it against a much more talented defense. And we should say,
for sure,
this Patriots defense is so much better when Christian Gonzalez is playing. He missed the first 3 games with a hamstring injury. They're just a completely different unit when he's on the field. He's honestly one of the top 3 or 4 corners in the league, and his ability to match up against somebody like Keon Coleman down the field and then come in the slot and cover Khalil Shakir. Like, they can do a lot of fun things on that side of the ball when Christian Gonzalez is healthy. No, I mean, May played a really good game. Josh Allen's having to handle, he's going to have to carry more work than what May ever will. But again, if you are a Patriots fan, you are feeling absolutely fantastic on Monday morning from what you saw from not only your team, but Drake May, because it sure seems like he's going to be that next guy to kind of get into that elite status of these quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to overreact to one performance here. His wins did come against the Dolphins, the Panthers, and now the Bills, but May just has that makeup. You watch some of those throws that he was able to make on the run, kind of running out of bounds, just pinpoint accurate down the field to Stephon Diggs. Like, he's there. And we've talked about this before, but he's got that makeup of that Justin Herbert mold of quarterback, and maybe he can be potentially something more than that. I think we're going to talk about Herbert here in a little bit, and a guy that is maybe not living up to expectations the way that we expected. But another point I want to make from this game real quick, Marcus, is Josh Allen was well protected. I mean, this offensive line did a really good job. They kept him dry all night long. In the fact that he was so well protected and he still wasn't able to have a big performance, I do think speaks volumes about the pass protection from the Patriots.
I thought the Bills did a good job of keeping him clean, but Mike Vrabel did a good job of just dropping 7 guys into coverage and making Josh Allen have to throw the ball into tight windows. And he did it a couple times. Keon Coleman made an unbelievable grab on the sideline. He found Dalton Kincaid down the field. But I think that's the way you're going to have to beat the Bills and Josh Allen. You can't blitz him because he's too good of a runner. His release is too quick. This was just a really good quality game outside of a million penalties. But I think if you're a Bills fan this morning, you're not panicking. You weren't going to go 17-0. The schedule's so soft. I think the only concern now is The Patriots have a incredibly easy schedule. Could we get into a situation where these teams are both 12-5 and it comes down to who wins that next matchup in Foxborough? The Bills are going to be fine, so don't overreact too much here.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I'm not concerned about the Bills at all. And in fact, going into the season, and even now, like they still might be the one team you can say in the NFL that is most sure to win their division. Nothing's a sure thing a quarter of the way through the season, but the Buffalo Bills are going to be just fine as long as Josh Allen is just fine. Marcus, let's talk about the LA Chargers now and kind of the collapse that we've seen over the past 2 weeks. And so the Chargers are coming off of a 27-10 loss against the Washington Commanders, despite playing this game at home. There was a big turning point in this game, Marcus. I know you know what it is. The punt from the back of the end zone that Ladd McConkey returned for a touchdown was negated by a penalty. That ended up being a 10-point swing because just seconds before the end of the half, not only was the punt return touchdown wiped away from McConkey, but the Commanders were able to get into field goal range just before time expired in the half. Now, even with that, I can't say the Chargers would have won this game. They still lost by multiple scores. And after the end of the first quarter, when the Chargers are up 10-0, I'm like, okay, maybe they'll cruise to victory here. That was not the case at all. From that point on, they were outscored 27-0. Are you concerned about Jim Harbaugh's team here?
Oh, yeah. I'm not concerned about Justin Herbert because if you watch this game, I thought for the most part he played really well. There was a stretch in the third quarter when the game was 10-10, where it was 1st and 10 sack. So now it's 2nd and 19. Herbert threw a 33-yard pass to Quentin Johnson down the field, brought back by a penalty. And then it was 2nd and 28. Herbert hit Keenan Allen for 31 yards across the middle of the field, brought back because of a penalty. 2nd and 33, he hits Quentin Johnson for 37 yards, brought back by a penalty, and then they have to go run punt. Like this offensive line is atrocious right now, and they can't protect Justin Herbert. He's getting hit on almost every single play, but I'm more concerned about the defense. Like this defense, they had no shot against Cliff Kingsbury and Jaden Daniels. Like they were completely fooled time and time again. And Jaden Daniels couldn't even really move. There was no Terry McLaurin. There was no Noah Brown, no Sam Cosmi. And they were able to just bully them on defense. And I think if you're a Charger fan, you're really concerned about this defense because last week the Giants ran all over you. This week, Washington ran all over you. You're going to have much better opponents coming up. I think this Chargers team, they've got a couple big name players, but the overall roster and the coaching is not good right now at all.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the plays that Justin Herbert was able to make because the box score numbers were not good. Obviously, when those were negated, that plays a huge factor. But on 29 attempts, only 166 yards. That's 5.7 yards an attempt with a touchdown and a pick. Sacked 4 times. You alluded to the offensive line issues that they're having with a 58 QBR in this game. If they have their bookend tackles, I mean, we might be looking at a completely different Chargers team. And so I think that's a huge factor right there.
Absolutely. And whenever you lose Slater and Alt, and it sounds like Alt's going to miss at least 6 more games. Like he's got a pretty severe high ankle injury. That's a big issue. But you cannot let it completely destroy your offense, right? We've seen teams across the NFL have offensive line injuries and still be able to score the ball. You did not score in the final 3 quarters of this game. That is completely inexcusable. And that's where it comes down to coaching. I think Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman, they're a little bit too static in the way they call plays. They're not creative enough. And when you have some of these injuries, and this is what happened last year, you're not able to overcome them. That's a sign of poor coaching. We'll see if they get it figured out. But I honestly, I don't feel great about this Chargers team at all going into the rest of the month.
Yeah, and Marcus, I feel like they've looked like 2 totally different teams from the first 3 weeks of the season over the last 2 weeks of the season. They started off with the win over the Chiefs. They beat the Raiders by 2 scores. They beat the Broncos. And then you put up 18 points in a loss against the New York Giants, and then 10 points this week in a 17-point loss against the Commanders. What's happening to this team? This is one that you and I agreed was a top 10 team in the league entering the season. We thought that we were kind of confirmed in that over the first 3 weeks, but now they're backsliding in a big way right now. And like you said, they can't chalk everything up to the lack of offensive tackle play. You've got to be able to find a way to put up points. You got to find a way to be able to get must-have stops on defense. They're not getting either of those right now. What do you see happening with them now? They've got games coming up against the Dolphins, Colts, Vikings, Titans, a manageable schedule these next 4 weeks. Obviously, the Colts are a much better team than anticipated. We'll talk about them in a second. Are they going to turn the ship back around again here?
I mean, the schedule does make it where they're going to probably be okay. I still think this is a playoff team, so I don't want to get too down. But the idea that like they were going to run away with the AFC West was never going to be the case. They're just not that type of team, and they don't have that type of roster. This very much feels like what we've seen for the last couple of years, where you're a 9-8 win team, give or take a win or loss, right? And you're right back into the wild card. So maybe if they get Joe Alt back here in November, December, they could steady that offensive line. But this to me is a team that like if I were rooting for, let's say, the Colts or the Steelers or the Bills, like you want to play this Chargers team in round one because they're such a flawed roster.
Yeah, and I was pretty bullish on them beginning on the season because I think they've got your franchise quarterback. You've got a good head coach. You got the bookend tackles when they are healthy, but the problem is you're not going to get Slater back. You're going to get Alt back late in the season. Can you weather without them? The defense is where the big issue lies for me because I thought that they were playing over expectation those first 3 weeks of the season. Now they're kind of coming back down to earth, and maybe this is just the defense they are. They lack star power. They don't have really anybody that they can lean on there, Deion Henley. But I mean, where's this coming from? Like, how's the defense going to get better from here, if not from coaching? Because you don't have that many players.
Well, and that's your hope, is that Jesse Minter eventually figures it out. But this is one of the things that we highlighted a couple of weeks ago is you look at the secondary and it's Dante Jackson and Tariq Still, and eventually those guys just get figured out. Like you can hide them for a game or for even a month, but when you start to play better teams and better coaches, they just go after them relentlessly. And that's what Cliff Kingsbury did. They ran to the edges all game long because they knew these Chargers corners can't tackle, and they had absolutely no problem doing so. So we'll see if they can get it figured around. Harbaugh is a pretty good coach, but right now this is not a well-coached team.
Yeah, I would agree with that assessment. Marcus, let's move on and talk about the Baltimore Ravens. And I don't think anybody saw this coming. They didn't have Lamar Jackson this week, but even then, this is an embarrassing football team right now. I mean, dead last in the NFL, giving up over 35 points per game. This defense, I mean, since Mike McDonald left, this defense has not been the same. And you look at what CJ Stroud was able to do to them in this game: 23 of 27, 244, 9 yards an attempt, 4 touchdowns, a 99.3 QBR. I mean, Stroud was essentially perfect because it was like they were playing 8 defenders out there. The Ravens, even if they get Lamar back, they don't have a defense. And so we're looking at a team that is 1-4. And from the data that I found, I think that a team has historically like a 5.96% chance of making the playoffs after that start. It goes down to effectively 0 if they lose next week against the Rams. Now they have a pretty cake schedule the back half of the season. You'd be getting Lamar Jackson back. That would make a huge difference. But this team is in trouble. Is it fair to say that they're doomed already?
Yeah, the schedule is really soft in the second half of the year, but that doesn't matter if you're a bad football team. And the Ravens are bad. I mean, they don't do anything well right now. They can't run the ball. Derrick Henry has been basically non-existent the last couple of weeks. They can't stop the run. They get 0 pressure on the quarterback. Their coverage has been atrocious. And now you're relying on Lamar Jackson dealing with a hamstring injury to come in and be Superman every single week. And even then, it's not going to be enough. We've seen it in the first month of the season. He had these awesome games against Buffalo and Detroit, and it wasn't enough. So I don't think this Ravens team has any hope here because Lamar's not going to play this week against the Rams. They're going to let him sit at least through the bye. And then you basically got to win at least 8 of the next 9 games or so to give yourself a chance. And I don't see it because, again, they are not a good team. Their defensive line is awful. The Ravens are done. Like, it's over. Some teams have these years where it's just a disaster from start to beginning, and you're not able to overcome it. It starts to snowball on you. That's the Ravens this year. I think this is going to be a team that ends up winning 5 or 6 games and is a complete non-factor in the AFC.
Yeah, and I mean, who would have guessed that? I mean, they're coming off of a 44-10 loss with Cooper Rush couldn't stay remotely in this game. And even with Lamar, I mean, you might not win this game with Lamar as good as he is. And you could argue that he could have been the back-to-back MVP in the NFL. This defense is so bad right now. They're in a tier of their own at the bottom of the league. And I just don't see that turning around. Not only did CJ Stroud have a perfect game passing the football, they also ran for 167 yards and a touchdown with over 5 yards a carry in this game. On the flip side of things, Cooper Rush, 179 yards, 0 touchdowns, 3 picks, a 29 QBR. I mean, this team is just getting pulverized. And you look at the games that they've played so far, Marcus, and the points that they've allowed: 41 to the Bills, 17 in their win over the Browns, which feels like a maximum for them right now. 38 points to the Lions, 37 to the Chiefs, where Mahomes didn't even hardly play the fourth quarter, and then 44 to the Texans. You've played some strong opponents in there, but this is inexcusable. You can't be a serious team when your defense looks this bad. I don't think anybody would have expected a 1-4 start, regardless of who was at quarterback.
And think of what we were saying about the Chiefs and Texans kind of going into these games. Like, oh, the Texans offense is one of the worst in the league. They scored 10 points against Jacksonville, 19 against the Bucs, 9 against the Rams, and then they score 44. Same with the Chiefs. Chiefs could not score the ball the first 3 weeks of the season. They play Baltimore in Kansas City, and they light up the scoreboard. So I think this is going to continue to get worse for the Ravens because it's an older defense, especially on the back end. They've got injuries. Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton, they're likely going to miss next week as well. I know that there are some sports books out there that have them as the favorites in the AFC North. That's insane. It's free money to pick Pittsburgh right now. It's the worst division in the NFL. Baltimore's not going to be making a comeback this year.
Yeah, it's wild to see how things have transpired so far in the AFC North. Marcus, I want to ask a follow-up question before we move on from the Ravens. They've got the LA Rams this week, and just considering how poorly things went against the Texans, how well do you think that game goes for Baltimore in week 6?
I mean, it's going to look a lot like this Texans game. You know, the Rams coming off 10 days rest to get ready for this one. Ravens looking ahead to the bye. Like, I fully expect another one of these 24, 27 point blowouts. Like, it's not going to be competitive. If you're Baltimore, you're just trying to get to that bye week without losing any more players. But again, I don't think it matters that their schedule is so soft because this is not a good team. They don't do anything well. And on defense, they just don't have the horses up front like they used to with Justin Madubuike out. They don't have Michael Pierce, who was on the team last year as a run stuffer. They don't have the edge pressure. Not a lot of hope in Baltimore right now.
Yeah, and a lot of parallels to the Cincinnati Bengals last year, where you have an MVP level quarterback when he gets back on the field, but your roster, your defense just is too far away for them to make a splash this year. Marcus, let's move on and talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, one of the surprise teams in the NFL this season. I mean, the Bucs have been a quality football team for several years now. Signing Baker Mayfield, one of the best decisions this franchise has made over the past few years. And I mean, you just look at what this team did in week 5. Yeah, I want to open up with this. They were on the road against a 3-1 Seattle Seahawks team. And if I would have told you in this game that Sam Darnold throws 10 yards an attempt, 341 yards, 4 touchdowns, has a 95.8 QBR, and they run for 122 yards for 6 yards a pop on the ground, you're like, okay, Tampa, they just got destroyed. They win this game with a Baker Mayfield game-winning drive, 35-38. This is what we've come to expect out of Baker and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, we can talk about the concerns on defense. I think that there are some for sure, but this offense is potentially lethal. And right now, Mayfield is on the pace for 3,500 yards, 34 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions on the season. Like, he's an MVP candidate, possibly. We'll talk about some of those in a second. Are they for real? Are the Buccaneers for real?
Absolutely. I mean, they put up 38 points on the road without Mike Evans, without Bucky Irving, with a Chris Godwin who's still working his way back. They've had injuries on the offensive line, and it doesn't matter. And this is what an elite passing offense can do for you. And this is why I always advocate for these teams to continue drafting receivers early in these drafts. Even if you got two, you can always add a third, because someone like Emeka can completely change and transform your offense. And if you've got an elite passing offense, you can go toe to toe with any team in the league. And Tampa Bay has shown this like year over year with Baker Mayfield, whether it was, Philadelphia last year or Detroit in the playoffs a couple of years ago. They don't have as much talent as those guys do on defense. But again, when you can throw the ball this well, you're going to have a chance in every single game. And yeah, I think Tampa Bay, who's going to host a home game because they're going to win the NFC South, who has a chance to be like the 1 or 2 seed in the NFC, absolutely, I think they are a contender in the NFC, and I think they could make the Super Bowl.
I don't disagree with that. I think that that's perfectly fair to say. Mayfield is at the top of his game. I want to go back for a second. What you're talking about, Emeka on the other side of the ball, and the Seahawks have JSN. I mean, these two receivers, have already become go-to options in the passing game. Just shows how important they are. Like you alluded to already, they combined for almost 300 yards and 2 touchdowns in this game on just 16 combined targets. And so makes a huge difference. I mean, you strike gold on those receivers. And I think that Tampa Bay certainly did with Egbuka. Already looks like that guy. No Mike Evans. Your offense should only get better when he comes back. There's no reason to expect it to get worse. You played a quality football team. You played a really stingy Mike McDonald defense, at least for the first 4 weeks of the season. And you were able to put up 38 points on the road with a game-winning score. Like, I am a believer in the Buccaneers. I still think about what they did to the Eagles 2 years ago in the playoffs. Like, Mayfield has that it factor to his game. And I think that he's a guy that could carry that through for playoff success.
One more quick thing. JSN, Emeka, 2 Ohio State receivers. I think I saw the number today was former Ohio State receivers had like 534 combined yards in week 5. And that didn't even count Terry McLaurin, who didn't play, and Noah Brown. Good reminder that speed at the receiver position is a little overrated, right? Jackson Smith-Njigba was probably a 4.6 receiver. Emeka, not slow by any means, but he's not really a burner. But these guys just know how to get open. They can play all the receiver positions, and they're absolutely dominating in their offenses. And with so many teams going to zone right now, having guys that just know how to settle into the zones, get open for their quarterback is so important. Those guys are both going to probably, total 1,400 receiving yards this year. Just 2 awesome players, and it was fantastic and fun to watch them go head to head on Sunday.
In kind of mirrors of each other, Marcus. They have very similar skill sets. They're just natural. I mean, it's so much more important to be a natural do-it-all receiver than it is to be an athlete at the receiver position, which we've seen time and time again in the NFL. They are both legit for sure. And I mean, Seattle, to their credit, still a really good football team. I think that they could be in that discussion too for a team that could potentially go deep into the playoffs. Obviously, they didn't have the best defensive performance. Offense still looked very strong in this game overall. Marcus, let's talk about an offense that hasn't looked as strong this year. And it's kind of surprising considering they're coming off of a Super Bowl championship. They were awesome last season. They're still a 4-1 football team. But the Philadelphia Eagles are slowly and kind of quietly coming back down to earth. They're coming off of a 21-17 loss to the Denver Broncos. The passing game has been a struggle. I mean, that's the elephant in the room right now. 161 passing yards per game right now. And when you're not running effectively, Saquon had 30 yards in this game, by the way. He only ran the ball 6 times, but 30 yards. I mean, as a team, they carried the ball 11 times for 45 yards. You can't pass the ball efficiently and effectively. And by the way, they're 25th in yards per attempt right now, too. Is there reason to be concerned about this 4-1 Eagles team, even despite all the talent they have?
No, not really. Because I mean, what are they, 20-2 in their last 22 regular season games? And I think the number I saw today was they are 20-1 in games that Jalen Hurts finishes, right? Yeah, you're going to lose one. And you look at their schedule to open up the year: Dallas, Chiefs, Rams, Bucs, Broncos. It's honestly a surprise that they're probably 4-1, given how difficult that schedule is. They play the Giants, Vikings, Giants over the next 3 weeks. Like, they are going to be fine. This was a weird game. They actually had a chance to steal this game at the end. The ball hit DeVonta Smith in both hands on the Hail Mary attempt. The flow was just, it was off. It was kind of a choppy game. I don't know why the Eagles went away from the run in the second half. Saquon Barkley did not have a carry in the second half of this game, and they were up 17-3. So I think Nick Sirianni tried to get a little bit too pass happy here. I think the Broncos are a quality opponent. These games happen. We saw it happen with the Bills this weekend. I'm not panicking on the Eagles. I still think they should be the overwhelming Super Bowl favorite right now.
Yeah, definitely not panicking for sure. I do have questions, though, whether this is the same elite offense that we saw 2 years ago, last year. Like, it just seems like they're slowly trending in the wrong direction. The first 4 weeks of the season, they played some good opponents in there. They played some good offenses in there, but they are winning every win that they had when they were 4-0. They were all in one-score games as well, and games that potentially could have been flipped the other direction. Now, again, not panicking, but are they too reliant? Like, every time I watch the Eagles, Marcus, it's like this team is so reliant on we're 4 down territory all the time. And why not when the tush push is unstoppable? But it's like, if we can just get to 4th and 2 or less, seems to be their game plan. And it's like, we're just going to methodically move the ball down the field. When you get into the playoffs and you get matched up against whoever that, I mean, the Packers, the Bucs, whoever, who might have a more explosive offense, are they going to be able to keep pace at that point? And again, it's the Eagles we're talking about here.
I'm just not worried, because if you remember last year, starting in week 3, 15 points against the Saints, 16 points against the Bucs in week 4, 20 points against the Browns in week 5. This is kind of what they do. It seems like they lean on their defense early on in the season, and then things really pick up in the second half. I don't want to overreact here. This is the most talented roster in the NFL by a mile. Like, the only other team I think is close is Green Bay, and they're significantly more talented than what Green Bay is. It's an early October game. I just don't want to be concerned here. They'll be fine.
One other thing I want to talk about with the Eagles offense really quick, Marcus, AJ Brown, just 43 yards on 8 targets in this game. That's poor efficiency overall. The spacing hasn't been great. The chemistry doesn't seem great. Hurts and Brown seem like they're not on the same page this year. Brown has just 194 yards on the season, catching 19 of 36 targets with 1 touchdown. At what point does he just get beyond disgruntled? I mean, this is a player that you and I would have both considered going into the season one of the best receivers in the NFL still, a guy that's made a huge impact in the past. Is Brown getting disgruntled? And what point is he going to say enough is enough? I need to get the ball.
It happened this week. Diana Rossini from The Athletic reported on Saturday that both DeVonta Smith and AJ Brown have been very disgruntled, and they've made it known inside the locker room and to the coaches that, like, hey, we need the ball more. Like, we can't just be run, tush push, run. Like, we're too good of players to not be getting the ball. And you saw DeVonta Smith in this game get a lot more targets, 10 targets, 8 catches for 114 yards. He wasn't dealing with Patrick Surtain, and that's the difference in this game. Is AJ Brown was followed by Surtain. They're clearly not happy with the passing game. And I don't want to have this all come down to Jalen Hurts, but man, Hurts' job has been so easy the last few years where teams don't blitz you. You've got a great offensive line. You've got to use receivers. It's one read and throw. But now that teams are loading up to stop the run, and the Eagles still want to stay run heavy, it's been a little bit more up and down. I think if we have a couple more of these weeks with AJ Brown not getting the ball, maybe something ends up bubbling up and we see either a trade or we see the offense change, but it's been there for a while now.
All right, Marcus, before we talk about some of our MVP favorites, I want to talk about the Colts for a second here. I mean, we touched on them last week. They're coming off another just massive win, and albeit against the Las Vegas Raiders. You're at home 40-6. I mean, this game was never close. They embarrassed the Raiders. It was the most convincing win, I thought, of any of the games played in week 5. Daniel Jones continues to look like that guy, 20 of 29. Didn't have a huge performance, but still 7.3 an attempt, 2 touchdowns, 79 QBR and a 113 passer rating. Took good care of the football, making the right decisions routinely. rushed for nearly 100 yards. Defense was awesome. I mean, Geno Smith looked terrible in this game. A 19 QBR, 2 picks, was sacked 4 times, just couldn't do anything right. I mean, they're winning on both sides of the ball, and this team is 4-1 now atop the AFC. Like, what is going on? Is this a contender? We talked about them last week. Are you more convinced now that this team might actually be a contender?
Yeah, I mean, they had a great shot at beating the Rams last week, but Adonai Mitchell decided to throw that game away a couple different ways. So part of me wants to say, no, they're not a contender, because I just don't know if this is a team that I can see having a lot of playoff success. And then you look at the rest of the AFC, and if you say the Colts aren't contenders, then you better pick 2 or 3 other teams that you think are. And I just have a really hard time doing that, because there just aren't very many teams in the AFC. And we've been saying this for the last couple of weeks, that the AFC is as weak as we ever remember. And the Colts are one of the teams that's probably the most well-balanced. They run the ball really well. Daniel Jones is running this Shane Steichen offense as well as you could expect. They've got playmakers. Tyler Warren looks fantastic. Jonathan Taylor might be the offensive player of the year through 5 games. And I think they are going to win this division, which means you're going to have to go and play in Indianapolis in round 1. And I just don't know if very many teams are going to be able to match up well with that offense. So, yeah, I kind of am buying the Colts a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, would you be buying them more so, or would your opinion not change? I go back to last week, and I think of that critical error, the AD Mitchell. Why do we see these boneheaded plays from you dropped the football just before, and you made a phenomenal play, spun after the catch, took it for 75 yards, dropped the football, goes out of the back of the end zone. I mean, you shoot yourself in the foot right there. That was a road game against the Rams that they could have escaped with a win. They could be 5-0 right now, sitting comfortably atop the entire NFL. And would your opinion of them change at all since then?
It shouldn't, because they went toe-to-toe with the Rams. And again, if you just take out that mistake, they probably win that game. So honestly, that part of it isn't changing it too much. It's just, how much are you buying into the Shane Steichen offense? And honestly, for me, it's the defense, because I don't know if they can cover against some of these elite passing teams. We should mention in this game, the Raiders were without Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer, and this is the heaviest 2 tight end team in the NFL. So when you take those guys out and you take out Colton Miller, who's dealing with a high ankle injury, you're already down significant weapons. So I don't want to overreact too much, but the Colts do have a look of like, hey, this is a team that I won't be surprised if they are a little bit reminiscent of like the 2018 Titans or the 2019 Titans, where nobody expects this team to win 12, 13 games, and all of a sudden they're in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, I think that's a good comparison there. And I agree. I think that they've been rock solid even against their best competition. And I go back to this play, this AD Mitchell play for a second here, Marcus. And I'm like, what in the world? Because the Cardinals did the exact same thing this week in a game that literally that play cost them the game. The name of the running back is escaping me, but Jonathan Gannon was not happy.
Yeah, Amari DiCamardo. Yep.
And you did you see Gannon on the side after him? He took a couple of jabs as running back, and I don't mean words, like literal jabs at his running back. And you should be furious. Like, this stuff shouldn't happen in the NFL.
And real quick, remember about 2 months ago when the Colts made the decision to bench Anthony Richardson in favor of Daniel Jones? Right now, Daniel Jones, number 1 in the NFL in QBR. I have a feeling once we get a little further away from the situation, it was never close for Shane Steichen. Like, they knew Daniel Jones was going to be the quarterback the entire time. A lot of people who maybe draft guys or fantasy guys thought Richardson should have been the quarterback. But I think you're seeing why the Colts had so much confidence in Daniel Jones to run this offense.
All right, Marcus, let's move back now and talk about our favorites for MVP. We're a little bit more than the quarter away through the NFL season. Let's talk about some of the guys at the top of the list. And that first name that obviously jumps out is Josh Allen. Even after the loss, he's putting up elite numbers, both as a passer and a rusher. He is the odds-on favorite right now. But after them, it's a little bit murky because you got Patrick Mahomes already creeping back up. Surprise, surprise. He's been there 3 times before. Baker Mayfield's a name in the discussion now. Who are you looking at here as maybe your favorite overall candidates and maybe some sleeper candidates to win the MVP?
I think Baker's a really good call because because of the style of offense, he's going to have to put up big numbers. I'm looking at Jared Goff, who already has 12 touchdowns through 5 games. I think this Lions offense, I think everybody anticipated that they were going to be awful, or not awful. They were going to take a step back when Ben Johnson left. And that hasn't been the case at all. They put 37 up on the board in Cincinnati. Goff is actually playing really well. And if you remove that week 1 against Green Bay, he has been darn near flawless. If the Lions end up winning 12, 13 games, and Jared Goff leads the NFL in passing yards and touchdowns and passer rating, he's going to have a hard time not at least being in the discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a name to definitely throw out there for sure. Great start to the season. The guy that he was traded for swapped. Matt Stafford also having a very good season so far. Could he be in that discussion right at the tail end of his career?
It's possible. I don't know if he's going to have the numbers. And that's the problem is if you look at Stafford's numbers compared to like Goff and Baker, I think they're going to kind of pale in comparison. But I think Stafford's playing some of the best football of his career so far.
And Marcus, how hard would it be for, I'm talking like a super long shot here, a Sam Darnold, a Daniel Jones, to actually earn enough respect from those AP voters to be a bona fide MVP candidate? Like who's maybe one of the biggest sleepers that you see?
That's a tough one because generally you're going to have to be either a 1 or 2 seed in your conference. That's how these MVP works. And I don't think Seattle's going to get there. They've got a couple losses now, including one to the 49ers. So they could end up finishing 3rd in their division. And I think someone like Dak Prescott, who's playing unbelievable this year, the Cowboys aren't going to make the playoffs. So he's going to be kind of disqualified from that as well. I think you're better off looking at quarterbacks like Goff. Maybe if the Colts can rattle off a bunch of wins and get to 12 or 13, maybe. But I think he's more likely to win like comeback player of the year than to win the MVP.
Marcus, we see this so rarely these days, and MVP has really become a quarterback award. And why not? Because they are the most valuable players. But let's say that Josh Allen maybe kind of falls off a little bit here. There's no other like clear quarterback candidate. Is this a year where there's possibly an offensive player, a running back, a wide receiver that could sneak into that discussion, or is it just not happening anymore?
Well, I mean, Puka Nacua is on pace to have like 2,000 receiving yards, right? So he's the guy that could potentially do it. But once Deebo Samuel had the year where he had 2,100 yards from scrimmage and didn't get it and scored 18 touchdowns. And then Cooper Kupp had a year where he had, 1,800 receiving yards and didn't get it. I kind of threw out the idea of
17 touchdowns, I think, that year. Yeah.
It's not going to happen. It's going to be a quarterback. The AP loves to give this to quarterbacks. That's the smart pick here.
Okay, Marcus, we've talked about some of the coaches in the hot seat right now. And man, there's no coach in a hotter seat, I don't think, right now than Aaron Glenn. I know he's a first-year head coach. The scope of things, if the Jets were being realistic with themselves, they weren't going to be contenders this year. But you are off to an 0-5 start, and you are getting embarrassed. And I've had this discussion with you, not on this show yet, Marcus, but anytime a team is willing to go out and hire a defensive-minded head coach, you better get your defense to play well. You better get your guys energized and fire up. And we have not seen that from the Jets. The Jets defense has been a train wreck. And so if you're responsible for the defense, or at least a defensive-minded head coach, and you're not aiding your offense in any way, you're obviously not the offensive play caller, you have to do better than this. And I feel like the Jets have talent on their roster. They still got Quinnen Williams. You still got Sauce Gardner. I mean, they still have some talent there. They have more holes than they've had in the past, but there's no reason I think the defense should be playing as poorly as they are right now. Is it fair to say that even in his first year, 5 games through, that we should already be talking about firing Aaron Glenn?
Maybe. When you hire a defensive-minded coach and your defense gets worse, generally not a great sign. You gave up 34 to Pittsburgh, 30 to Buffalo, 29 to Tampa Bay, 27 to Miami, and then 37 to Dallas, who the Cowboys were without 4 starting offensive linemen and without CeeDee Lamb. And that game was over by halftime. I mean, Dallas just took their foot off the gas in the second half. Otherwise, they could have scored 40 plus in this one. Yeah. Because I have no faith that Aaron Glenn is the right guy to develop your next franchise quarterback. Justin Fields is not going to be the quarterback of this team in 2026. The defense is further away now than it was when he got hired. And honestly, it looked like they started to quit on him already in week 5, and
Mhm.
that's not a great sign. So you don't want to be known as the organization that fires coaches quickly, because then you're not attracting the best candidates. But sometimes you know right away whether you got it right or you got it wrong. And I'm afraid the Jets got it wrong.
Yeah, and there just doesn't seem to be any signs of life. It kind of reminds me of like the Antonio Pierce hiring by the Raiders a few years back. Another thing I think that's worth discussion here, Mark, you talked about how the Jets need to draft a quarterback. I think that's become very clear. Justin Fields is just not a passer. He's just not a passer of the football. But because they need a quarterback and because they could very well draft one in 2026, it would kind of be a little counterintuitive to keep Aaron Glenn around, hopefully optimistic for one more season, and then say, all right, we're going to let you have a hand in drafting this quarterback and working with the GM drafting the quarterback, only to turn around and fire you. Like, I guess if you're going a clean slate, like get a clean slate of head coach too. Does that, I mean, would you abide to that logic there?
Yeah, I think I'll be shocked if the Jets aren't drafting inside the top 3. Their schedule gets really tough here the next couple of weeks. They're going to be picking inside that top 3. And if you're picking in the top 3, you're going to need a quarterback, right? And while this is not the strongest draft for a quarterback, you have no choice. You have to draft one. You can't go into a season with Justin Fields again. He's not progressed as a passer at all. You want to make sure that you've got the right guy to be paired with that new franchise quarterback. And it's not Aaron Glenn for me. And I think he's well liked. He's well respected. I admire what he did last year with the Lions, but we've seen nothing, and I mean literally nothing through the first 5 games that suggests he's going to be ready to, number 1, develop that guy, or number 2, lead this Jets team out of the darkness.
100% agree with that. It's been rough to say the least. And so the Jets have to weigh. I mean, we are a team that is very much in contention for that top overall pick. Is it going to be worth it to try to scrounge around wins at the end of the season when you've got nothing to play for? And if you're already considering, or already maybe by then know that you're going to be moving on from your head coach. Good discussions today from week 5, Marcus. We go live on this show normally every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. We had to make an adjustment today. You can follow Marcus on X at Marcus_Mosher. You can follow me on X at Tommy Jaggi. You can download the Stacking the Box podcast wherever you get your podcast. Also check us out on YouTube. You can follow my written content on stillcurtain.com. You can follow Marcus's written content on the Fansided NFL Network. Be sure to check out fansided.com for all of your daily sports news and opinions. And thanks again for listening to Stacking the Box.